Okay, third episode of reality-based. God, I don't know if I like it. We'll see. I'm really excited because one day there's gonna be more money and funding behind this channel, and I will film these things inside of a building that doesn't echo and has heat. Very excited to go back over this entire topic with you one day when some computer nerd can put much better graphics on the screen than what I do. I know this stuff, I don't know that stuff. So, echo. Anyways, this is the episode that I've been looking forward to because this is when it stops being quite so boring. The last two episodes have been establishing a lot of general baseline information and terms and phrases and things that you need to know, those little building blocks at the bottom that then we can start to build off of. This episode starts to get into the things that I like more, and we're not talking about acronyms and things like that. What we will talk about in this episode is your team structure and then actions on contact. And it's still kind of a boring episode because we're not doing anything like out in the wood line yet. I'm gonna have all of this stuff acted out with a group of friends and paid monkeys maybe, I'm not sure. We'll get to that bridge when we get to that bridge, but this episode is just gonna be going over good principles for setting up your team if you wanted to put together a 4-man fire team with some civilian buddies that could kind of do a little bit of everything. This is the best that I've been able to come up with, talking with other people inside the industry and just putting my own experience and expertise into this. This is how I would do it. So, you know, do with the information what you want. You know, it's up to you. I don't care. It's your call. So, moving on, for your team makeup. After talking to some other people in the industry and thinking about this for, I don't know, probably a month or, 12 minutes, whatever, same thing. So after about a month of kind of brainstorming this series and talking to guys that I trust and other people in the industry and guys out there with more experience than me, kind of what we all came up with as far as the 4 positions that you'd have to have if you were only a 4-man fire team are this. You have to have a team leader because you have to have someone who makes decisions inside the group. You can only have one cook in this kitchen, and whatever that team leader says is what the group does. There isn't time for an argument. We're just gonna do what you say we're doing. It is what it is. If it seems like it's a bad idea at the time, tough cookies, it's what we're doing. So be a man, get over it. Team leader says go, that's what we're doing. For any of you that were ever in the military with me, jump. Team makeup, you gotta have a team leader. We gotta have one cook in the kitchen that tells everybody else what they're doing. So figure that out amongst your friends who that is. Rock, paper, scissors, or everybody wrestle till only one guy wins, I don't care. Figure it out. You've got to have someone that operates as the heavy guns. So preferably, this would be a belt-fed machine gun of some sort that can lay down just tons of heavy volume fire out onto an area. But thinking more realistically in the civilian world, this could be anybody that has like a DMR rifle or something that's got a little bit more reach out and touch, something that brings a little bit more fight to the fight than just our standard AR platform. So think creatively amongst your group of friends and the armament that you guys all have. But the point of the heavy guns will be to saturate an area with fire. We want something and someone that's gonna dominate the battle space. That's his role in life. The next most important part of your team that you gotta have is a point man. You need someone on your team that is really well versed with navigation, land nav, with terrain management, preferably with booby traps and IEDs and mines, and just navigating the battle space is a very important skill to have, and you need someone that's leading your team while other people are worried about 360-degree security. You've got to have a point man. Last most important member of the team is you've got to have somebody who is dedicated to medical. And that means someone who is specifically carrying extra medical for the team and or local populace or people that we might come in contact with. It also is really important to establish that the team leader will ultimately be a part of that medical piece, but also knowing whose responsibility it is to get up and go take care of someone that is hurt is super important, because if you get hurt, your job is to stay where you are. And if your buddy gets hurt, your job is to stay where you are. I can't stress this enough. Inside of a gunfight environment, if someone gets hit, your number one responsibility is to stay in the fight. You cannot break down your gun. You cannot give up what you're doing. If he dies, he dies. It is what it is. This is a full send environment for grown men. Feelings do not matter here. If you go to get him, you die too. Leave him to die. Is what it is. Now, if you have an assigned medical person and that guy, if he's able to, inside the fight, then he can make moves to get that guy. But preferably, what we're gonna do is we're gonna return fire and we're gonna finish that fight. Then we're gonna provide medical care for that person. And in that time, the person that is assigned on our team to be the primary medical provider will handle the medical care for that, while the team leader manages the evacuation plan, whatever that looks like for your group. But I gotta say it again, inside of a gunfight environment, if me and you are fighting and I get hurt, leave me alone. So if you've watched the series before, then you know that this is a wedge and that is a file or a line, because that's in the FM to call that a line, but if someone calls that a line, we're gonna have a problem. That's a file. Anyways, if we're talking about where each individual person with those responsibilities that we just went over will fall into these formations, this is how I would set up a civilian-based 4-man fire team. Before one of you jumps in the comment section and tells me about how your ranger instructor, it didn't set your fire team, I don't care. I don't care. I'm not doing this off of doctrine. I'm doing this off of how I would set this up should the world get weird and I had 3 friends. This is what I'm doing. You do with that information what you want. Cool, moving on. In a wedge, I would want my point man taking front. Again, my point man's main responsibility in the world is navigating that terrain, building a navigation plan, and then handling that navigation. His partner in life is gonna be the heavy guns. Whatever it is that we make our heavy guns and my point man, they're gonna be buddies. My team leader and my medical piece, they're gonna be buddies. So they're in this part of the wedge. And then again, same for the file. My point man backed up by my heavy guns, and then my team leader and my medical apparatus. And in a second, I'll show you what I mean by them being teams. But this is generally how I would have it set up for those individual responsibilities inside of the formation type. And these 2 formation types are gonna be the most commonly used. These are the easiest. Everything we went over on the first video is really good background knowledge. This is your bread and butter. You could fit so many infantrymen in this bad boy. So, we're finally to the fun part. Actions on contact from the wedge. So, let's say that we're in a wedge and we take contact from the front. The first thing that needs to happen is that everyone that has a clear lane of fire at the contact, at whatever just shot at us, everyone is gonna open up. And this is where my channel gets its namesake from. This is the Mad Minute. And the point of the channel is to be a tactician inside of the Mad Minute. The Mad Minute refers to the very beginning of a gunfight. It is the first 60 seconds of a gunfight. And it means that Joker number 1 has sent some rounds our direction. And everyone is going to respond in order to make him regret his decision, but also in order to prevent him from maneuvering. So we have twofold responsibilities here. I want this man to regret having picked a fight with me, but I also want to control his ability to maneuver. So there's 2 key important things that need to happen here. 1, everybody needs to have a clear lane of fire and everyone needs to let it go. I mean, full mag dump, let it go. But we need to be remembering our principles of security and our concept behind 360 security and intersecting lanes of fire. So this is a great time to introduce this concept. Intersecting lanes of fire means if this is my point man's area of responsibility, then my heavy guns has an intersecting responsibility with him. And same with the team leader, and same with your medical piece. We all have intersecting lanes of fire, so we're all covering onto each other so we can all just soak that area with fire. If this is the contact that we took, then if each one of us understand that for the team leader, his lane of fire is kind of here and over. For the medic apparatus, his lane of fire is from here and over. For my point man, his is, you know, from here over. And then for my heavy guns, it would be here and over. I want each one of these individuals to pick something that fits inside of their lane of fire that looks like something that you would take cover behind. If you were the guy that just shot at me, where would you be? But where would you be within my area of responsibility? If it looks like something that you would hide behind inside of your area of responsibility, soak it with ammunition. I mean, make it fucking rain, okay? But stay in your lane. I'm not shooting the point man's responsibility. I'm not shooting team leader's responsibility. I'm not shooting medic's responsibility. I'm shooting my responsibility, and I'm dumping it, okay? Everybody understand the concept behind the Mad Minute? Cool. You like how it paused? Like someone was gonna answer me? There's no one here. It's just me. It's just me and you. So we have taken contact. We have established our volume of fire onto the contact. We have prevented his ability to maneuver, and we have made him regret his decision to fight us. This is where my philosophy for the Mad Minute is challenged somewhat amongst scholars of gunfight theory, because it means now that my entire team is black on ammunition all at the same time. And generally, this is something that we want to avoid. You know how I'm always talking about how gunfights, there's no such thing as always or never, that everything is kind of adaptable? This is one of those moments where I think it's adaptable. I have found in personal experience in my life, because I'm so cool, that if we all go cyclic at the very beginning of that gunfight, it kind of stress manages for ourselves, because we're gonna do it anyways, because that's how normal human psyche works, is that you get super scared and you just start smashing the trigger. So everyone's gonna do it anyways. So let's build a battle plan that works with how psychology works, right? So it affords me a really nice thing. If we all go black on ammo at the same time, then none of us are shooting. And there's this really great 10, 15 second window where we're all reloading our guns. This is a great time for all of us to pass information around. More than likely, there's only one of us that knows where that contact is coming from, if even one of us knows. So being able to take that real quick kind of 10-second pause, it shouldn't take that long to reload your gun, but it's one of those moments where we're going to develop the situation rapidly, right? This is a moment for the team leader to start getting information from his squad. What are we doing? What happened? What's going on? Where's the contact coming from? Any information that we can relay amongst each other. There is also something else that needs to be happening during this time. Provided the ability to, we are now breaking into our two teams, okay? We're gonna talk bounding, but we're going to I'm gonna cover this all like out in the wood line or out in a big open area with real live people so that you can see it better, but you've got to see it on a dry erase board before you go do it outside. This is the best way to learn it. I've taught it, this is the way to go, okay? So, we've had about a 10-second pause. Everyone has reloaded their gun. We have exchanged good information. The next step in this process is that the team leader needs to make an extremely important decision. Is this a fight that we are gonna take on, or is this a fight we're gonna run away from? What we're about to go over is bounding, and it will work the same way whether we're going forwards or backwards, but it's the team leader's call here on what we do. This is where being a leader is a tough job, because you hold the fate of your entire team in the decision that you're about to make. But for the sake of this example, the team leader is gonna make the decision that we're getting after it. This would be the moment that we wanna get everybody online if possible. Remember, everything is common sense, everything is METTC, everything is applicable off of the environment. And when we move inside of a gunfight environment, we are only moving from a position of cover and concealment to a position of cover and concealment. So, as we talk about bounding, as we talk about getting online, remember that none of these things are gonna look super pretty out in the real world, because you're just gonna be doing your best to accomplish the goal that we're establishing here while being behind positions of cover and concealment. So a beautifully straight line probably won't happen. But what we want to establish here now is that we have our two elements that are gonna bound. We have a support by fire here with the point man and the heavy guns, and we have our first maneuver element, which is the team leader and the medical piece. The reason I say the team leader is your first maneuver element is because the team leader's job is to make good decisions. So if he decides this is a fight we're gonna have, it's his responsibility to go first. So we have exchanged gunfire, relayed information amongst ourselves, reloaded our guns, made the decision to take this fight. Now it's time to go. This team, between the point man and heavy, is gonna lay down suppressive fire onto the threat area. While they lay that fire down, my team leader and medical piece are gonna pick up and move. When they get where they're going to say, I'm set, because they've already said I'm moving, and no one heard them. So communication inside of bounding, one of the best communication types is simply, when I'm set, they're going to get up here, they're going to get set in behind their cover and concealment position, and they are going to open up on the enemy. This team then will hear their gunfire, and they're going to pick up and move. And when they move, they're going to get set in a position. They're going to pick up a volume of fire on the threat. And then we're just gonna repeat that process over and over again until we have gotten through the threat area, killed or and otherwise destroyed what the issue was. We're going to bound. While one team is shooting, the other team is moving. While one team is moving, the other team is shooting. We aren't doing anything else. If this team gets ready to go and move, this team is staying still. So we talked about actions on contact from the wedge and how to turn a wedge into two bounding elements. Now let's talk about how to do it from a file. The wedge, obviously, you're kind of already set up and ready to bound like that, but with a file, you're not. If we were to take contact from the side, from a 3 or 9 o'clock, then absolutely, we're ready to rock and roll. If we take it from the 12, or north, because north is always up. If we take contact from the 12, then we need to remember that this is one bounding element and this is one bounding element. So as soon as we take contact, that mad minute is also going to involve getting my heavy gun out and into the fight over here, and getting my team leader and my medical individual out into the fight over here, and essentially making a wedge again, right? So if we understand how to bound from a wedge, then all I'm doing when I'm in a file and I take contact from the 12 is getting that file opened up and creating those two bounding elements that will then begin to work together and move through and across the objective area. So we're just gonna go over the concept of bounding one more time. This element is my support by fire element. Then they're going to open up fire onto the threat area and suppress that threat area, while my maneuver element picks up, moves to their next cover and concealed position, and begins engaging the enemy. While they are engaging the enemy, this element is going to pick up and move to their next cover and concealed position and begin engaging the enemy. When they begin engaging the enemy, this element is going to pick up and move to their next covered and concealed position and begin engaging the enemy. And we're just going to repeat that process until we get where we're going. No one is ever moving unless someone is shooting. Communication between these two elements is vital, because we don't want to pick up and start moving while the other element is trying to reload, and no one is pinning the enemy down for our movement. That puts us out in the world in a bad spot. If no one is shooting on our side, we are not moving, okay? Also important to remember here, if both of these elements, if all four of these people are looking downrange at the same spot, then as they pick up and move, they will tend to have what's called converging lanes. So because we're all looking at this one spot in the distance, we start to move like this towards that spot. And what happens then is that our sectors of fire, our lanes of fire, converge on each other, and we start running towards each other. It's really easy to take these people that had 50 meters, 25 meters of spacing between each one of them and just stack them all on top of each other, basically behind the same piece of cover and concealment. So it is vital when you are bounding to pick a spot of cover and concealment that stays in your lane. So as you get closer to your objective, you are gonna be on the side of your objective, shooting over to it, because you're not moving directly at it, you're moving towards it, but staying in your lane to ensure your entire team has clear lanes of fire. Sound good? Hope everybody's following this. This is hard to do with an expo board in a freezing garage. Someone hire me an editor. That closes us out for this week as far as kind of all of the whiteboard back-end information and education that you guys need for us to be able to get out into the wood line and continue this conversation. I can't stress this enough. I could take a single piece of this topic, whether it be the wedge or react to contact or the 7 fundamentals of reconnaissance, whatever, and make a 5-hour video just on that individual thing. I am trying to reduce down the amount of information that is pertinent and put out what is usable information out there into the world for you guys. Please jump in the comment section and ask questions. I will be in the comment section with you trying to clarify and explain things. This is a very, very complicated subject matter. This is the backbone of gunfighting as a team, and this is something that people dedicate their lives to understanding, to perfecting, to doing well, not only individually, but as a team. The thing that will make your team special is if your team has the way to do it. The difference between a regular infantry platoon and a special operations platoon, for the most part, is that the special operations platoon gets to stay together for years on end. They get to develop TTPs and SOPs that operate specifically within their platoon on their strengths as their unit. Whereas an infantry platoon or a scout platoon is constantly getting new people, they're constantly getting new leadership, there's constantly new cooks in the kitchen, it's just always changing. So what will make you and your little group of friends super effective is if you guys get out, train, and develop these things on your own. The concepts behind bounding, the concepts behind covering each other while you move, these are golden rule concepts that can be applied by anybody, anytime, doing anything, anywhere. These are the basic principles of security. You need to go figure out how to make these principles work with your team and the equipment that you guys have, and you need to apply them to your local environment. What's realistic for your local environment, your local threat area, right? So moving on, we're gonna continue to deep dive actions on contact. We're gonna talk about bounding. We're gonna do live action explanations of bounding and what it looks like. We're really, really, really gonna beat bounding up in the next video because it's hard to do well. It's hard to do well. The concept behind cover me while I move is really simple, but effectuating that inside of a gunfight environment is hard to do well, and it's the most important thing that you'll do in that environment is covering each other while you move. If you can do that well, you are a force to be reckoned with. So, get a group of buddies together, set up your team, understand the principles you're trying to accomplish, and then go train, go practice, go figure out what works for you guys, and remember, it's okay to be dangerous. I'll see you soon.